So here's a big question that every country with a constitution has to grapple with. Can a government actually change its own founding document? And maybe more importantly, should there be a line that can't cross? Today, we're diving deep into that very tension, right at the heart of India's democracy.
And listen, this isn't just some dry, theoretical question. We're talking about a high-stakes dilemma that has fueled massive legal and political battles in India for over 50 years. It's a clash between the will of the people, represented by their elected government, and the timeless spirit of the Constitution itself. So to really get our heads around this, we have to rewind a little bit. We need to start at the very beginning and ask, why was India's Constitution built to be changed in the first place?
You see, the framers of the Constitution, especially its chief architect, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, were brilliant. They knew they couldn't just write a rulebook and freeze it in time. They saw it as a vehicle of life, something that had to grow and evolve with the country. For it to stay relevant, it had to be adaptable.
And this power to change things, it's not some hidden loophole. It is baked right into the document itself. Article 368 is basically the instruction manual, the key that gives Parliament the power to make amendments and keep the Constitution up to date.
Now here's where it gets really clever. Not all changes are treated the same way. It's a fantastic mix of being flexible and being firm. For smaller things like creating a new state, a simple vote is enough. But if you want to change something really fundamental, something that affects the entire federal structure, the bar is set way higher. You need a supermajority in Parliament, and you need at least half of the states to agree.
But, and this is a huge but, this amazing power to adapt immediately raised a pretty scary question. Are there any limits? Could a government with a big enough majority just change whatever it wants?
And that's the core of the problem, isn't it? What happens when the very institution that was created by the rulebook, the Parliament, gets the power to completely rewrite that rulebook? The tool that was designed for progress suddenly started to look like it could be used to attack the very soul of the Constitution.
And believe me, this wasn't just theory. It got very real, very fast. Things really hit a boiling point in 1976 during the state of emergency. The infamous 42nd Amendment was pushed through, and it made massive changes. Critics said it totally upended the balance of power, basically gutting civil liberties and weakening the courts. It was a massive wake-up call, showing just how far this amending power could actually go.
So you can really see the two sides of the coin here. On one hand, you absolutely need Parliament to have the power to make reforms and deal with new challenges. But on the other hand, if that power is completely unchecked, what's to stop it from tearing down the very foundations of democracy itself? So facing this very real danger, this idea that the Constitution could be chipped away to nothing, the Supreme Court of India stepped in. And they came up with something that was, frankly, revolutionary.
They introduced a new idea that completely changed the rules of the game, the basic structure doctrine. The concept is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It says, yes, Parliament, you can amend the Constitution, but there's a line. You cannot damage or destroy its core, its essential features.
So you're probably asking, okay, what is this basic structure? Well, it's not like a neat checklist you can find on page 50. It's more of a set of core principles that the courts have said are absolutely essential to India's identity. Things like the rule of law, democracy, fundamental rights. These are the absolute non-negotiables.
I love this analogy. Think of the Constitution as a house. Parliament has the keys. They can repaint the walls, change the furniture, even knock down some non-load-bearing walls. But what they cannot do is take a sledgehammer to the foundation or demolish the pillars that hold the whole thing up.
So where did this powerful idea, this constitutional shield, even come from?
It wasn't just an idea a judge had one afternoon. No, it was forged in the fire of one of India's most epic legal showdowns, the 1973 case of Kesavananda Bharati versus the state of Kerala. It was a landmark decision that completely redefined the relationship between India's parliament and its constitution.
And what's so fascinating is that this thinking actually echoes something Dr. Ambedkar himself said decades earlier. He warned that constitutional values don't just happen on their own, they have to be nurtured and protected. You can really see the basic structure doctrine as the court's way of putting that warning into action.
Okay, so that case was in 1973. That's a long time ago. Why does a 50-year-old legal doctrine still matter so much in all the political debates we have today?
Because plain and simple is the ultimate constitutional firewall. It's the emergency brake. It basically says to any government, no matter how huge their majority is, hey, you're just a temporary custodian here. You don't get to use your temporary power to permanently delete the rights and freedoms promised to every citizen.
And we see this doctrine in action all the time. For instance, when the government tried to change the way judges are appointed, the Supreme Court stepped in and said, nope, that threatens the independence of the judiciary, and that's part of the basic structure. It's used to question if certain laws are unfairly bypassing parts of Parliament. It is a living, breathing check on power. So at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's the guardian of the Constitution's promises. It makes sure that those big, beautiful ideas of liberty, equality, and justice aren't just historical words on a page, but a living reality for generations to come.
Which really leaves us with this final, profound question. In a democracy, who should get the last word? The people we elect to represent us right now? Or the judges, the unelected guardians whose job is to protect the timeless rules of the Constitution? There is no easy answer, and that constant debate, that tension, well, that's what keeps a democracy alive.